Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get pre-orders of all the upcoming Force of Will sets, as well as releases of previous sets after they come out. ccgprime.com with over 100,000 Force of Will singles, as well as out-of-print boxes from the past, and TCG accessories, as well as fowlibrary.com, a wonderful resource for deck lists, article discussions, and more. Check them out at fowlibrary.com, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer patrons Shukong Fu, Vite Ramen, and Maxime Van He. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will vodcast. It's Office Hours, featuring myself, DMO73, and I'm joined, as always, by Mike Rance.
Hello there.
Getting way too close to the microphone and the throwback to what we were doing before the podcast started. And Paul Reisman. Just woke up right before this podcast. We're in our prime, boys.
The letter T is for tired.
There we go. There we go. As we get started here, I just want to give, again, some shout-outs and kind of reminders. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and check the links down below to go check out Odyssey Games, where you can get pre-orders for this set as we're talking about it. They also have a special going on where if you buy both starter decks, you get a little bit of a discount, so check that out. And you can also go sign up for FowFest, because, like, you're watching this show, you better be coming to FowFest. November 5th and 6th in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Mike's coming to FowFest. Even if he says he's not right now, he's definitely coming to FowFest.
I sure am. If I say no right now, that's how words work.
Exactly. So we're gonna have a great time. We have tons of pricing available. We just got the playmats in. It's gonna be an amazing time, and you can go check out all the information for FowFest in terms of the details about it, as well as get signed up now to get your registration in for your entry participation stuff now down below in the description. So check that out. Okay. Let's talk spoilers. We don't have 2 weeks worth of stuff to go into, so we can kind of... There is actually some pretty, like, implicative stuff to talk about today.
Rapid fire, let's go.
No, not rapid fire. We have not as many cards to talk about. But let's jump right in with our first card here. Green-black, Silence of a Dark Knight. Quick cast, choose one, cancel target Resonator spell. Your opponent loses 600 life. Or your opponent banishes a Resonator. You gain 600 life. And Mastery, End of Night. So somehow or another, we're getting rid of a Resonator with this. Either stopping it from resolving or getting it off the field and doing something to life totals. This is a really solid 2-drop. I like the fact that it's multicolored. So it's not just like, I mean, I guess in the era of, dual stones coming back, having to play green-black is not like difficult. But at the same time, taking it out of just like being able to play mono-green cancels is nice. And modal is good. Modal is good.
Modal do be good.
Modal.
Yeah. I mean,
Modal.
There's a lot of, I mean, if it's your opponent banishes a Resonator, they have to choose, they get to choose, right? So there's some manipulation about that. It is also, nice to think about, more life loss stuff is always nice. And it has been a while since cancel Resonator spell has been relevant. Most of the time it's usually cancel target spell or cancel target chant spell. So in an era, this card, if we were purely in the era of orders, I think would be awful. But we're not in the era of orders anymore. Like, we are seeing in tournaments, both, competitively, we're seeing order decks and non-order decks, like, coming to be competitively viable, and we're about to see probably even more so non-order decks competitively viable. So that means Resonators are cancelable again. So having a kind of niche cancel to be able to hit them could definitely be relevant. Paul, what are you doing?
Feeling my cat.
He's trying to get a cat.
Just what are you doing? So here's the thing that I feel about this card.
Sure.
I think Zeus is still going to be relevant enough that this card is going to feel a little weird in the main board for Asuka. If Asuka's even competitive, right?
Sure.
But I think there's a very good, I think you can make a good argument that she is relatively competitive based on her support and based on her color splash. I think the best text on this card is Mastery End of Night.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden this stuff is like super easy to accomplish. I also like the fact that he gets around Eternal and Barrier. So I think probably the cancel target resonator is not as important as the rest of the text, but
yeah,
it's a good normal.
Yeah, for sure. I think if this text didn't have the modal ability to be able to force a banish and was purely just cancel target resonator, this card would be pretty much unplayable. Because like the niche of like having to try to cancel a resonator, like there are so many things that can kind of get around that, or like things that can't be chased or everything else like that. So it's just canceled resonators. In Forcible's history, spells that specifically cancel resonators have almost never been good. And then
But like, you, Trish.
Yeah, like they've just never really been good. And then even more so with orders on the scene, right? So the fact that this has modal means that it's worth looking at. Probably a cube card. Might be a cube card for sure.
Definitely a cube. That's a cube card at the minimum.
Yeah.
I had to really quick look and make sure that End of Night was in fact the J ruler and not the ruler.
It's the J ruler. Yep.
Whew.
Yeah.
The implications that other side would have been something else.
Yeah.
But sure. The fact that this is to the J ruler side means that it's probably garbage.
It is nice for the... So there is one implication here that's kind of nice. So Asuka really wants the enter effect of End of Night to resolve. And how do you stop enter effects? Lorite? What is Lorite? A resonator spell? So this actually is kind of nice that it has Mastery as like a way to be able to protect the enter effect of End of Night pretty well. Because if they go to Lorite it, you can just immediately tap End of Night and be able to protect it, right? So you have a nice little follow-up for it. So there is like viability to this card because of that Mastery text.
Yeah.
It's, however, probably not a card you're going to play 4 of, right? It's probably
definitely not. It's
2, maybe side a third based on the matchup, right? Which is fine.
Only if you're playing End of Night, because this card at 2 mana is not worth. What it does.
We played Zeke's way back in the day and never used the cancel a resonator part.
Right.
I remember
shuffling things back to the deck to continue with Thuga Train. That shit was fun.
Yeah, like in Forcible's history, cancel target resonator spell has just never been a good cancel. It's just never done what you needed it to do. So this is no different outside of, in the case of Lorite to be able to make something resolve.
And we have what is it? The one Darkness Will, your opponent cancels something and you get a mystery counter from Mr. Zagur's Ballesta.
Oh yeah.
So the opponent banishes a resonator. The 600 life is not worth the green mana on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, or Zeke's for the pumps. Yeah, for sure.
Pumps were good too.
Next up, we have Zombie returning from the Paramecia of the dead. What of the? Jeez Louise.
Zombie returning from the Paramecia of the
the. So this is a 2-drop 7/7. If this card would be put into your graveyard from your deck, put it into the field instead. Keep that in mind. It says instead. It never hits the graveyard. It goes straight to the field. Put the top 2 cards of your deck into your graveyard. Hello, Mikage Rhea equals 1 card Chimera for Fox.
Oh, Mikage Rhea doing something broken?
Literally, that's just cool. Cast Mikage Rhea. Does her effect resolve? Cool. Chimera immediately. Because it's not a trigger to put it from grave to field. It just, instead of going to grave, goes to the field. This is insane Fox support. Like, it's so good for Fox. But also just in general. Planting beans it. Like, there's a lot of, like, this is a very, very cool card for mill graveyard decks. The fact that it is and I think the biggest piece, again, is that word instead, right? Because so much of Forcible's history, the mill to grave reanimate decks have been like, they've never had a way to really get around, oh, you're going to hit my graveyard, sucks to be me. Like, that's never been something they've been able to protect outside of like Dark Alice. This is just a solid body that they get to naturally splash into the deck that gives them pressure without worrying about you hitting their graveyard, which is just a nice tool to give to graveyard decks. This is a very cool card.
Yes.
Now, Jeremy, what about Athenia decks? Glad you asked, Paul. I'm Jeremy now.
Who?
Yeah, Jeremy. What about Athenia
Yeah,
decks?
Peter's on. I'm thinking specifically harvesting season. So the good thing about this card is that it extends your harvesting season now. So instead of milling 10 cards, you're milling 11 cards, perhaps even more than that. But if you only hit one of these cards, you're getting even more mill off of harvesting season, which is always good.
Yeah. This is a very good card to like extend mills. Think about
And
like
it's normal.
Think about like Mikage Shinjiro, like pay one black, instant speed, mill the top 3. Oh, I hit zombie. Zombie's gonna go to the great field, mill another 2. So now my Mikage Shinjiro for 1 black at instant speed got me a 7/7. Put 1, 2 plus Mikage plus another 2. Put 5 cards in graveyard and a body on field. Like for a mill deck, like that's really really good. This card will 100% see play in any graveyard based deck. Full stop. Full stop.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this one. I especially smells like zombie.
I mean, it is one. So,
but yeah,
putrefied
I've been
flesh?
seeing a lot of people talking about obviously harvesting seasons is a big thing, but also we have to remember the fact that I'm pretty sure one of the darkness runes is bring back a zombie with cost. Like 2 or
oh
less?
yeah, for
Undeath.
one for undeath, isn't it?
Undeath,
Is it
yeah.
0? Is it 0 cost?
No, 1 cost.
It's 1 cost, but it's cost 2
Yeah,
or less.
I played that thing. That thing was fun. But that card with this, like if this happens to hit the grave, if you use it for like sack triggers off of something that's on the board already, like it's just I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of combo that you can potentially get with like Darkness Rune Rulers at some point, which would be nice because we haven't seen them do anything in about 2 years now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something to look at for harvesting season decks. We've already seen it. We're actually going to show off a harvesting season deck this week for our feature match. And it's just like that's just like one idea of showing you the potential of what harvesting season can still do. And then suddenly you introduce stuff like this into the environment and it's like, oh, harvesting season can do other stuff too. We have actually 2 harvesting season style decks that we're going to be showing off in the next couple weeks. And then this opens up a whole different world of what you can do with harvesting season.
I'm just not excited for everybody who has to do
banned.
commentary.
If it doesn't get banned.
I'm just not excited for everybody who has to do commentary saying zombie returning from the Paramita of the Dead over and over and over and over again.
Just Mill Zombie. I'm just going to call it Mill Zombie.
Let's call him. All right, we're going to name him here tonight, right now.
Mill Zombie.
No, we have to name him. Jeff.
This is Jeff.
Jeff.
No,
This is zombie.
no,
the zombie returning from the Paramita of the Dead.
We can't do that to Jeff. You can't do that to Jeff.
Okay.
Can't be, no.
Actually, you know what? The character that is in his archetype is Asuka, so this will be Shinji.
Shinji, get in the grave.
Get in the grave. Get in the grave, Shinji.
Wait, but what if you Chrono Gear and then you can say Shinji, get in the fucking robot, and then that's.
This is it. That's it.
Wait. Oh, Delorious. You put him and you say, get in the fucking car, Shinji. Jeremy, did I demonetize this yet?
No, I don't think so. Okay, moving on to some Void cards. Finally seeing some cards for Eins. First up, we have Chronopons. 1 Void Gears Resonator 4/4. You can play up to 8 copies of this card in your deck. Not unlimited. 8. And Mastery Gears, you may rest a recovered Gears Ruler or J/Resonator you control rather than pay this card's cost. This automatically shows us what, this is like the biggest indicator of what Eins is trying to do. It go wide. It's trying to flood the board with a bunch of dudes and then buff them up, which you'll see. It's Elf Ball. It's Gear Ball. It's all coming back.
No, it's Gears Ball.
It's Gears Ball.
Yeah,
they should have just pulled up the stop. They should have said you're gonna have a number of this. Just kind of Chronopons into Chronopons into Chronopons into Chronopons into.
And I have no cards in my hand and a field full of vanilla 4/4s. Let's go.
Don't worry, I'll draw next turn. Okay, I got a Chronopons.
Yeah, this card is. I mean, you're gonna unless we see something crazy, as we'll see from some of the gears that we're gonna see here in just a little bit. You're probably gonna play 8 of this card in an Eins deck. Just because he's going to want a lot of gears, and the fact that you're going to be able to easily get these out is going to be important. Because especially the other thing to remember about Eins is that he doesn't have a support partner ruler. So he himself is going to just be tapping for stone all the time. And so having him have some other ways to get the things that he does establish to kind of manipulate those things and support the fact
He's
that
on
he's
his partners.
Yeah, he's little partner boys. Like the fact that a Chronopons can pay for a Chronopons is helpful for him because he's very clearly going to go wide. We'll see it vary in a little bit, but like Gears is very much shaping up to be slivers from Magic, where you just like reveal the right ones and all of your stuff get the matching kind of stuff. So then suddenly having a bunch of Chronopons that all have their sliver boosted, kind of stuff is like, oh, this makes sense. But little robot is little.
He a boy.
He is a boy. Someone mentioned it has Wally vibes. Yeah. Are we getting Gears stones?
It's more Eva vibes.
Peter Eckersley, are we getting Gears stones? That's a great question. I have no idea. We'll see.
Oh.
I imagine that we'll probably see a special Magic Stone for Eins. Whether it
It'd
counts.
be cool if it was it'd be cool if it was a Gears like attribute so that you could tap it and so you could tap it and play the Chronopons.
Well, it specifically does specifically say ruler or J/Resonator. So unless the stone is also a dude, it doesn't work.
The stone just happens to also be considered a J/Resonator for mastery effects you control. I don't know, man. There's words.
So we have Light of Solaris, 3 Void Quick Cast, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each Gears Resonators you control, draw a card. Mastery Eins, you can rest a recovered card named Eins you control rather than pay this card's cost. So very clearly setting us up to be some things where Eins is clearly going to be calling stone or finding ways to recover himself so that he can use his mastery abilities. But like that's very obvious. This is a card. Like it's not crazy.
It's a normal.
It's not crazy. It's clearly designed to kind of support the archetype and allow you to apply more pressure. The fact that it cantrips is nice. The artwork is very, very cool. I really like the artwork for it. I think
the
this
artwork is great.
This is going to look amazing full art. It's going to look really cool full art.
You can put it in your binder and just never move it from there because it's bad.
That's fair. You know what? Some normals, just bad. Might be a cube card.
I've still got my Booty Zero in my thing.
Might be a cube card.
Unplayable, but it's
not a
the
cube
art.
card.
There is some go wide.
Card.
There is some go wide strategies in the cube, and so
Jeremy, I am passing on this card. You can have this one in.
Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes
you can have it.
Well, if you're gonna put this in the cube, you need to put Gears in the cube too.
Sorry, my bad. It just specifically Gears Resonators. My bad.
Yeah.
I can't read. Never mind. Not a cube card.
It's hot poop.
I thought I just had all
almost
Resonators.
as much reading comprehension for this game as I have right now. But anyway,
hooray! Okay. Next up, we have our first attributed Gears Resonator. This is Bird of Solari. 1 white, 1 colorless, 5/5. It's a bird, but it's not. It's a beast. It's a beast Gears.
Once again, birds are government drones.
Yep. Birds aren't real. Gears
aren't real.
Gears J/Resonators you control gain +1/+1 and flying. When this card is revealed from outside the game, you gain 1,000 life. So keep this in mind. The way that this works is Eins on his front side gains the abilities of any of the things that he has revealed that are attributed gears. So essentially, if you reveal this, Eins, the ruler, will then be granting all of your stuff flying. +1/+1 and flying. In a go wide deck, being able to just on command give everything permanently flying seems pretty decent. Like you're gonna play this card. Like this is a very solid card. The gain 1,000 life is certainly nice.
Every light deck can start with 1,000 life. Who's been playing Origin of the Seven Lands?
Yep.
That's it.
Hear me out. It's a beast. Perseus call to action for free.
But it's in the RFG.
Oh.
You're
playing 4.
We're playing 4 of this boy in the main board.
So you can
Paul is clearly the superior.
So it'll be a 6/6. Yeah, 6/6 with swiftness and flying. You got it.
16 chess, man.
It does buff itself.
Crazy. Moving on, we have First Regrets. A card that we cannot talk about really because we don't know what else it does. This is 1 white, 1 colorless. Destroy a J ruler your opponent controls. Doesn't target. Keep that in mind. You may search your deck for a card named Judgmental Recovery, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your deck. And it's Mastery, Mika, Saint of the Solaris Order. So Mastery, the front side of Mika. So she gets a front side kill a J ruler untargeted. But we can't really talk about how good it is because we have no idea what the other card that it searches for is.
So here's the thing. Judgmental Recovery, I'm going to call it now. It's not an actual card. You just judge your opponent really hard from across the table. You give them like a...
I can see that the Judgmental Recovery might be bring a card with contract from your graveyard back to your hands.
Jeremy, I got it.
Maybe.
Judgmental Recovery is not a thing you do. It's something your opponent does because you're playing red-white.
Okay, moving on. Paul, you've been doing a hand motion. Give me your thoughts.
I was gonna say, you play First Regrets because when you get Judgmental Recovery, you're recovering from the fact that you're judging yourself for playing Mika.
You have such hate for Mika. It's crazy.
I've seen nothing that makes me think she's going to be remotely playable.
It's so harsh, you guys are. Let's move on.
Your second regret is just playing Mika.
You'll never actually recover. You need the card because you'll never actually recover from the judgment of your opponent as soon as you flip over.
Anyway, here's Dragon.
I want to like her, dude. I want to so bad.
You don't want to like her. You have zero effort put into wanting to like Mika. I don't believe you. We have had so many conversations, and anytime I bring up Mika, I can see you die inside. It's not worth it. Don't even try to lie to our audience and say I want to like her. You clearly don't. You've made your determination. You're walking away. So next up we have Dragon of Solari, 3 red, 6/6 gears, J/Resonators. You control, gain +1/+1 and swiftness. You seeing the slivers vibe here yet? When this card becomes revealed from outside the game, it deals 400 damage to target player or J/Resonator. So you get a free thunder, or weaker thunder.
You get a free
weaker thunder.
Zap. It's not a card. I'm just making it up on the spot. It's fine.
This card's fine. I don't think it's the first one you reveal because you want to be able to save. You'll burn your opponent, but I also think that you can get better things and maybe want to be able to shoot something with the burn.
You want a bunch for Chrono Boys, and then you go ham.
Yeah. And also being able to kill something like a Black Witch or something that's kind of messing with you might be helpful. So it's certainly one that you're probably going to reveal second or third, but I definitely don't think it's the first one you reveal for Eins.
400 is a nice breakpoint for free, I will say.
Yeah, it's not bad. And I mean, it's you're not playing this card main boarded. You're just not. It's a 3-drop 6/6. Well, sorry, it'll become a 7/7 with swiftness.
3-drop 7/7 there, Jimmy. I think it's going to be huge.
4 copies. Next up, we have Sprinting Steward. 1 red. As an additional cost to play this card, pay any amount of life. J/Resonators you control gain +X/+X and swiftness until end of turn, where X is your life. X is the amount of life you paid for this card's cost, divided by 400 rounded down. And then you can rest Vega on his front side to be able to play this. So, a few things to keep in mind with this card. 1, as far as we know, you can contract a rested ruler. Literally nothing stopping you from doing that. 2, people are already talking about how can we use this to kill on turn 1, and everyone's talking about flaming the swordsman guy, the guy who's 3,000 attack, where your life is -X/-X, or where his attack is -X/-X, where X is your life. One thing to note, impossible. Literally doesn't work. If your opponent has 4,000 life, you cannot kill them using swordsman and this card. Because
unless you're Almerius Milist.
Unless you are specifically Almerius Milist. Unless you are that, you cannot kill your opponent with this card.
We solved the format, Jeremy. Bow to me.
Do you want to hear a more consistent combo?
Inferno? Using it for Inferno?
Playing this, and then making your Berserker, and then playing Inferno and attacking with Berserker exactly 1 time. Game.
That's true. That's the thing that you can do.
My love for you is like a truck Berserker.
Although he won't have the... But no, it produces red-black. But then you're not doing that early. That's not happening early.
You're right. You're only doing it on turn 2.
Yeah. So you're an aggro deck.
Yeah.
Let's be very real, though. any card that says
Just
as
in the
additional
beginning,
cost to play
turn
this
two.
card, pay any amount of life, will be broken in some way, shape, or form at some point.
Certainly, people are going to try it. I mean, we already
Oh,
have
yeah,
we already have
100%.
we already have cards that say pay any amount of life. I mean,
We
it's
do.
just a different tool for them.
Yeah.
And it's a cool tool for Berserker. It certainly gets him on. It also is a card that like just gets him online by himself very, very quickly, which is
It
very,
is also
very nice.
what I just realized. This thing's also just straight up one will, pay no life, give your board swiftness.
It's true.
Like that's fine.
Yeah, that's
I
not
think
bad.
that's okay. That's pretty decent.
Just remember when we tried to pumpkin witch things? Pay one will.
Now it costs one. Yeah.
Do you
It just
remember? I'm
doesn't-
still pumpkin witching things.
It
Remember
just
people
does-
were getting to stone 4 in order to which of the what is it?
Witch of the Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen
Seal
Kingdom
5.
out the
Seal
yeah.
5. I'm still getting
Which
to
is
Seal
what?
5.
stones.
I'm still getting to Seals 5 consistently. So, unless you're
Good rare.
unless you're Shiva, of course you can. What are you talking about?
Who's talking?
Toby,
Shiva-
Toby's talking about Shiva.
Shiva with her one drop chick? Who are you talking
Has
about?
anybody thought about Shiva in
And
like
the
the past
swordsman?
like 6
One
to
drop
7
chick.
months?
are you talking about Shaka?
To give it like to order the and then the plus is doubled? I mean, I guess
Yeah, that's a card.
Sure.
that's a thing you can do.
That's
I just
combo.
don't think anybody's thought about Shiva in the past like
That's a 3-card
6 months.
That's a 3-card combo in a format where rulers are gonna have a starting the game with pay 0, kill a thing.
pretty decent.
European players are crack Shiva. So turns out you don't use memes with Shiva. You use your own magic stones.
Yeah, that's
The
how it
whole
works.
time.
Just doesn't care about them. I mean, overall, cool card. Gonna see some play. Gonna see some people trying to break it. Cool card. Next up, we have Shark of Solari. 1
Yay!
blue, 2 colorless, 6/6 beast gears. Big old cannon shark. Aw, cannon shark. Da-da-da. Gears, J/Resonator control game, +1/+1, and precision. The worst keyword. Whenever this card
For
is
blue.
which card revealed from outside the game, draw a card. I mean, that's honestly probably the first Solari you're going to reveal. Kid you not, unless you're playing against a super aggressive deck, because it's a free card. Like
That
it's
is also a free card.
like
Yeah, that's
it's
pretty decent.
like Eins, beginning of game, draw 1. Remember when we were playing IU? That was one of the best parts about IU. Eins can just also do that. Great. Like
But hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm listening.
It's a
Main
beast.
deck it.
Yeah, it is beast.
It's a beast.
Uh-huh.
So if you main deck it,
Yep.
you can use Perseus Call to Action with
That's
it.
true.
It's-
That's true. That's true.
Paul,
That's
we
true.
can use Princess Call to Action to give it precision, so it has double precision. So you can attack a recovered player.
You can attack its front and its back at the same time.
Oh my
Answer.
god! You can turn it sideways and turn it around
gosh,
again,
it's like
so it's
literal
facing the other way
fans.
around.
Moving
What was
on
he
to the next
doing?
card.
Around your opponent.
I mean,
There it is.
it's not
It's
one
fine.
of the gears had to be the gear that you're gonna standardly reveal first, and like this is totally perfect for that. It's just like a beginning of the game. I'm gonna start with an extra card, like totally fine, nothing crazy. It honestly is probably this one or the white one, or like the two
I sure
standard
the
like
bird
first
doesn't have
reveals.
flying.
But it'll give itself flying because it's a gears.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's a bird with wings that flies. Forza
It is, in
Will,
fact, a
what are you
bird
doing?
with-
What are you doing? Forza Will, it's a bird
I
with
can't
wings that
believe
can
you
fly.
I can't believe he has it with flying wings. This is
Okay,
insane.
yeah, for sure. Next up, we have Charge of the Fairy Tale King. And if you haven't already seen all the announcements, this card is misprinted. It actually costs 2 blue, not 1 blue, which arguably makes it worse, but also arguably makes it better and safer. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, Charge of the Fairy Tale King, 2 blue, not 1. You may search your deck for any number of Fairy Tale resonators with different names with a total combined cost of 2 or less and put them into the field. If you do shuffle your deck, this card gains quick cast in all zones as long as you control a ruler under contract. Mastery Fairy Tale King. So this card is very good. It's not like busted by any means. It is just a solid Fairy Tale support card. Keep in mind, it also is very silly in the fact that if you grab Never End off of the first one, Never End can make any Resonator in your deck a Fairy Tale. So the second one can just grab you whatever Resonator you want. It does also say any number of Fairy Tale Resonators. Thankfully, it does say with different names, so you can't just be like, second one, everything in my deck is a 0 cost and I played Never End. A bajillion 0 drops. You can't do that. But this card is very good.
Other notable 1-drops. Shadow X.
Yep.
Dark Alice Rabbit Princess.
Very great.
Let's see what else. I guess Cheshire Cat, if you really want to be that way. If you're one of those old school Wendy stands, Wendy.
Yeah.
I am a Wendy stan.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh,
Red Riding Hood.
The green Red Riding Hood.
You just go.
Well, you can't because you're
the original
blue will for the. Yeah. Okay.
Green Blue Stones.
The original.
Deepwoods. She counts Deepwood. She counts Deepwood Stones, right? It's every
yeah,
wind
but she doesn't
magic
get swiftness off of it though because it's basic.
Rit. It's okay. We pay 1 red too to give them all swiftness.
Also, Jeremy, before we talk more about this card, and
Sure.
before I trash on it for the next 5 minutes, can we go back to Sprinting Steward?
Okay. What do you want to go talk to Sprinting Steward about?
I just realized something.
Go for it.
This is the only one with Mastery that doesn't reference the J ruler side of this card out of all the ones that got revealed in this little cycle.
So far.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, so
this little cycle here,
yeah, so far this is the only one that doesn't care about the J ruler side. And I think that's very clearly intentional in the fact that again, you want to be able to I think Vega again, we don't have the CR yet. But if the CR stands to reason that you will be able to contract even when tapped, making Vega's set up for a push, be able to be free and then still able to judgment as the red go face deck makes a lot of sense. It also is the idea of I will tap Vega, pay 2,000 life. Vega is now immediately live for me to be able to contract and go in. That feeds into what Vega's trying to do and Berserker's trying to do. So that makes a lot of sense. That being said, Charge is actually better on front side without Mastery. Because it still stands to this day, the best chance in Force of Will are 2-cost non-quick cast chance. Because they dodge Famer Spell, they dodge Garion, and they you dodge the 2 best cancels in 1-drop cancels in the game, and they usually have pretty cool effects. This is no different.
Yeah, I would say
also like to
this
point
card. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I was gonna say I would also like to point out that all of you little Match Girls stands out there, the Little Explosive Match Girl is a 1-drop Fairy Tale, and so is the Infinite Matchsticks. It also happens to be a Fairy Tale.
Can we build?
Okay.
Can we bring Oddgrow back? Can we bring Matchstick Oddgrow back?
No, we can't. This costs 2, Jeremy.
I mean, we're just casting this. We don't care about it, the other parts. But I'm kind of down for trying to make Oddgrow happen again. That was a fun deck. Falchions doesn't need a J ruler either. I think let's go talk about that. I think his.
Oh, that's what.
No, it does.
I was like, you need a J ruler for Falchion.
Yeah, it's Mastery Justice. Otherwise, Justice Hurricane wouldn't make any sense. It's not Falchion Hurricane.
So let's go. So Squirrel. So there is the daily research. Yeah, that makes sense. That one. Yeah. Sure, the draw engine power. Yes, that is the front side. So it stands to reason that we might see another card for each ruler that has Mastery their front side and Mastery their backside. That would make a lot of sense. Next up, we have Squirrel of Solari, Robo Squirrel. 1 green, 1 colorless, 4/4. Gears, resonators you control gain +2/+2. Thank you for making the green one not a simple skill, just a little bit of a bigger buff. That's fine. When this card becomes revealed from outside the game, recover a magic stone you control. It's just
crazy.
It's just Dry Wing Light.
We got more.
Keep in mind that Eins does say at the beginning of turn, I believe. Not at the beginning of your main phase. Let's go to look at Eins real fast. At the beginning of your turn. This does so this does have some implications for the idea of being able to abuse the best phase in Force Will's entire sequence, which is the before recovery phase. It lets Eins do some stuff there. I really like the fact that that is when it does it, as opposed to beginning of the main phase, so he can't like double float a stone. This card also brings interesting implications to whether or not we might see a Dry Wing Origins ban, because then suddenly there's an alternative to Dry Wing that also doesn't flood, like, gatekeep your opponent. If there's like a healthier, less floodgatey alternative, which is an interesting idea. This card is Dry Wing light. I mean, that's the easiest way to put it. It's not crazy. It's not bad.
You can also think of it as Dry Wings 5 through 8.
Yeah, for sure. Also potentially that.
Also, this is what happened to the squirrel in Tree of Growth's art.
Ooh. Yeah.
If you ever wonder where the squirrels go during hurricanes, it's here.
Yeah.
They get infected by Mechagodzilla City, and they like start to mutate into weird animal mutant
Paul,
machine hybrids.
I've got a great idea.
Wait, don't tell me.
So this is a beast, right?
No.
So we main deck 4 of it. Perseus call to action.
Busted.
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 Fucking wrecked,
Like if you do that, the card's free.
Card's basically free. This card's basically free.
Except it's not, because it's only when it's revealed from outside the game that it recovers.
This card's basically free, right? Right, Paul?
But if it targets a beast, the card is free.
Oh, you're talking about Perseus call to action being free. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Justice Hurricane. 1 green, 1 colorless. 1 green, 1 colorless. Quick cast. Cancel modals. Cancel again. Cancel target chant spell or destroy up to 1 target J/Resonator and up to 1 target addition. Choose this option only if you control a ruler under contract. And it has Mastery Justice. This card is okay. Card's okay. And the reason why it's okay is some people are like, oh, because you can rest Justice and then he'll immediately recover. Yeah, but that's a trigger to recover. Keep that in mind. And so if you want to make your Justice vulnerable to try to make playing this cancel free, you go right ahead.
I will destroy it instead.
Yeah, I will respond and kill it. This card feels like it's a fine 2-cost cancel that is like slotted for Justice. It also has the fun way of being spot removal if he needs to. The Mastery text in my mind is kind of like, sure, I guess, but it doesn't like completely wow me about the card, because the whole idea of Justice is that like he wants to stay safe forever, and so or he's safe forever if you just don't tap him, and so tapping him feels weird. At least in the early game, tapping him feels weird. But what are green decks gonna do in the late game? Win the cancel war. So like, sure. What
are green decks gonna do in the late game? Win the game.
Exactly, because they're gonna win the cancel war and win the support stuff. Giving green some nice spot removal choices is nice, but I also like the fact that it's not so good as that he can just have that spot removal online all the time. You do have to get to Justice to be able to actually start shooting things, which plays into the fact that green's spot removal is its weakest element. It just doesn't have access to it at every single point of the game. So overall, good design, good card. Nothing really else to say about it for me.
Moving on.
So also keep in mind, if you don't want to tap Justice, you also have Eternal to make it a 1-cost. So that gives you some playability with this card outside of resting. So
that's true.
I think this card for Justice is very good.
Yeah,
probably a 3 or a 4 of.
It is his 2-drop cancel, right? It is rather than playing the generic cancels we've had, it is his 2-drop cancel.
And against other of these like Moon Children rulers, you are always going to be able to pop an addition, because every single ruler in this set reveals something from outside the game, and it's usually an addition.
Yeah.
Even Eins. So very, very solid card. I like it.
Yeah. Next up we have another 1-drop black discard spell. This is Death Glare, 1 black. Look at your opponent's hand and choose a resonator from among them. Your opponent removes it from the game. Your opponent pays 1 more to play a spell's sharing a name with the removed resonator as long as it is in your opponent's removed area. Mastery, end of night.
Hey, why is JoJo posing?
This is a solid. This is just a solid discard spell. We have a lot of decks that, like, I think things like the order decks, like being able to make their, have to pay 1 more to be able to potentially cast something they want to order is very nice. Hitting something like Typhon so that suddenly antibodies cost 2. Like, it is a solid discard spell that has implications beyond the immediate discard, which is really, really good.
Discard of Dark Alice, do you feel old yet?
Yeah. Yeah, this card's very, very good.
This is just the opposite of Dark Alice's smile, I'm pretty sure.
It's grabbing something, the other part of it. Yeah, but then it also has that, like, tax. Yeah.
Tax part's kind of cool. Also, again, why is she JoJo posing?
Because she's Dio.
Oh my god, she vampired, she Dio. Ooh.
Yeah.
She doing the whole, like, the whole battle thing.
Hit antibodies twice, they cost 3. Buy Typhon, have a nice day.
Hit Crocoshark with this.
Approach Asuka.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything to Zeus, right? Because Zeus is all singletons, but, like, you also don't want to you also don't want to put discard
right now. Thank you.
You also don't want to discard cards against Zeus anyway, so, like, that's not really a thing.
You play this in Zeus though.
Would I say this is better than Look of Corruption?
No. No, absolutely not.
Strictly from a perspective of the discard potential of this card, no. Look of Corruption is just strictly better because of its
literally
selection.
The only thing this card does better than Look of Corruption
is the tax.
Is hitting Garyon.
That's true. It does hit Gary. But that card is just, if I had to choose that I could only play Look of Corruption or this card, I would main deck Look of Corruption and sideboard this, right? Because sideboarding would come into, like, do I know my opponent's deck now, and, like, are they caring about trying to resolve a resonator? Do I want to make it more expensive, right? So I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd pick Look of Corruption. But it's still, that doesn't mean that it's a bad discard. It just means that, like, from the nature of being the 1-drop discard spell, Look of Corruption is still, in my mind, the best one we've ever had printed.
Yeah, Look of Corruption literally hits, like, every single card other than Garyon that's good in Force Will costs 4 or less. That's why Look of Corruption is good.
You can't,
if the card
Dragon Rider, you can't grab blood with it. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, you can't grab antibody. You can grab antibody, but not blood. Because blood is.
You can hit Crocoshark with it.
You can't hit Crocoshark with it, but that's fine. You're gonna pay 2 to put it face down in the standby anyway.
You can hit all of those beasts in Ein's hand, so he cannot play.
It's true. It's
too strong.
Action
so next up, we have our last Solari. This is our last card for the night. One black, 1 colorless, 6/6. Beast Gears. Gears, J/Resonators you control gain +1/+1 and First Strike. Honestly expected it to be Bane, but don't hate First Strike as a symbol skill. When this card becomes revealed from outside the game, recover a ruler you control. This is also very good for Eins in the fact that, again, what's the best phase in Force of Will's history? Pre-recovery. What does Eins want to do? No. What does Force of Will want to do? What does Eins want to do? Tap to be able to play mastery stuff. Right? It's very clear that Eins is setting up to have some mastery spells that work for him, and this is very good for him to be able to do that. I imagine that this is probably, if there are other Eins cards that let you reveal from outside the game, even if it's one you already own, this is the one that's going to see multiple copies of play in Eins's sideboard. Calling it now. That being, again, I just gave you, like, 2 precursors to what has to happen before that happens for this card. But if those 2 things, then this. But even just by itself, it's a very good grab for Eins. And other rulers too. If Origins still sees if Origins doesn't see a ban or a hit, This is like a situational 6 Sage Stone, which is like good for order decks. It's good for like it has those same kind of sequencing things. It's just not super consistent because it's not just 1 in 10, 4 out of 10 for your main deck. It's did you see Origins? So like that is also, this is going to be a card that's going to see play because of Origins. If Origins doesn't see a ban, which that can be our next point of conversation, because we'll have so much time left. But
so point number A. Why this bat no fly?
Because bite.
Descending on your face.
Because
That's
bite.
Why.
Point letter 2.
Point letter 2.
Paul, think about this.
Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on, Mike, before you say anything, I have an idea. Okay, hear me out. It's a beast. So we play 4 copies of this in the main board. We play it on the field, and we can play Perseus Call to Action for free and draw a card and get a sickness.
Oh, there it is. We got there.
Jeremy, actually, I was talking about potentially using this to judgment your Scarlet very early, but that's a pretty cool idea too.
You know how you judgment your Scarlet early? Play Wall of Terror.
Do you know how to judgment your Scarlet early? Do you know how to judgment your Scarlet really early? Don't play a 5-cost card that sits in your hand. Let's be very real about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think there are a lot of Darkness rulers that would benefit from now running Origin and this card.
Abdul.
Especially things like Abdul.
Abdul, 100% would love to play this card. Especially since the idea of like, what if your first stone, like imagine your first stone is Gruz Ballesta, you hit this and you can just turn 1 flip Abdul. Like, that's crazy. Like,
Jeremy, turn 1 Fox.
Also turn 1 Fox, which is terrible, but also like turn 1 Fox with a Rhea in hand feels pretty good because then Rhea can then mill the other dude and we have an instant Chimera because we hit turn 1 Killing Stone and we're just immediately live. Let's go! Like, you
are a god at this game if you do that, but honestly, that's sick. And
it is very cool. Like, it's very cool. Like, of the 5 gears spoiled, this one has the most implications outside of Eins, which is very cool.
That and Squirrel, I would say, are both very, very strong competitors for the sideboard.
Yes, for sure. So that brings us to kind of the topic to talk about at the end. We have this like 10 minutes, and we'll talk about it more, and I'm sure there will be a lot more to talk about when it actually gets announced. But let's talk about, with the cards that we're seeing so far, and the fact that we have seen from the combination ban list that they have been taking into consideration cards about to be printed and their relation to old cards when it comes to the combination ban lists. Let's talk about it. In my mind, there are four areas that should be discussed or potentially addressed in the combination ban list leading up to this, right? And that is Zeus, Origins Drywing, My List, and Belial. So the idea to kind of walk through those 4 things is Zeus has proven that while he is very good and very much tier 1, there are things that we can do to make him still very good, but not so seemingly frustratingly tier 1. And so that there are things that can stand to happen there. That's the idea of Zeus. Origins Drywing is the idea of there are some strategies in this format that, yes, everyone can play Origins Drywing, but as it stands currently with Origins Drywing, outside of a few decks, you kind of need to be playing Origins Drywing in order to be competitively successful. So if everyone has to play it because of the floodgating of Drywing and the fact that there's now a replacement in the form of the little squirrel, does something need to happen with those 2 cards, or something need to happen to Origins, especially now that we're seeing the stuff that's already getting more revealed, to kind of break that every deck using the sideboard link that's kind of come out in the past couple sets. That's point 2. Point 3 is My List. The American GP has once again shown My List players are trying to abuse that extra mana to be able to surprise people, catch them off guard, and kill them super hyper early, which is something they said the ban list was against, or to kind of help. So the question is, have we seen enough after just one tournament with what Milest was doing before the ban list, and now to justify just getting Milest out of there. And then 4 is Belial now having a bajillion God art potentially available to him. So those are the 4 pieces. I'm gonna pass the mic over to Paul, and Paul, in your mind, with those 4 points, kind of where do you land? Not what would you do about it, just kind of where do you land on those 4 points?
Remind me of your 4 points, because I know it's the Milest ban, Zeus getting something, Origin Drywing,
Origins Drywing, Origins in general, Milest, Belial. With all the Gods arts, having an unkillable deck, because he'll just have so many Gods arts forever.
I'd say Belial for me is the least concerning, strangely enough. I couldn't tell you why, but like godart.deck seems possible, but I'm not there yet. I don't have the argument for that yet. I don't have the argument against it yet. So I think Origin Drywing is a very splashable engine. Anyone who comes from Yu-Gi-Oh! Understands that very splashable engines are typically sort of not super fun, because it makes you wonder, like, okay, what is this deck trying to do? I think in Force of Will, it's not necessarily the case. And I actually think Drywing does something really necessary in the format, and that's stopping opponents from cheating Will. And like games can be decided on that. And I think that interaction is very much needed. That being said, if it goes and we have Squirrel, you can still do some really neat combos, which is mostly how I've been using Drywing, is to produce that extra Will. And then being able to do something with that Will, like playing Harvest Season on turn 1 outside of Rune decks. Like things like that are super fun and super interesting that I wouldn't be able to play otherwise. So I would prefer Drywing and Origin to stay. Origin as a card? I like cards like Origin. I would like a promo of Origin before we ban it, because right now I think there's a huge chunk of the player base who just can't even play it. Origin's biggest problem is that it's not accessible.
Yeah, it's already like a $20 full art and like a $12 normal.
And if you can even find it.
Yeah, for sure. If you can even find it. Yep.
There's nothing on TCG Player. As far as Milest goes, I think Milest is like one of the main problems of the game, is that you get extra Will at the start of your turn. That is just kind of ridiculous. I mean, I watched Milest all weekend in Mini do ridiculous things. That being said, you and I have had this discussion about how like European guys have like smashed that deck against so many other decks. Now that they know how it works, it doesn't really do anything, but it's what it does inside of the creative space. And I think we all agree that Six Sages were some of the most powerful rulers ever created. So it makes sense to me that a card that was never designed for the Wanderer format was very specifically designed for New Frontiers.
Yeah.
Could potentially just go away because Wanderer just makes it too powerful.
Yeah. And then we've had the conversation on the channel before about Zeus. There's not really anything to talk about with Zeus. To speak to part of your pieces about the Belial piece, I think that he's also the low man on the totem pole in terms of my concerns. I would say that I would be less concerned if the initial combination ban of what I thought Belial was going to be was what was executed, which is Belial with Inferno, instead of Belial Lastema. Like, I would honestly, with all these Gods Arts coming out, I would just swap Belial Lastema for Belial Inferno, and like let you play Belial Lastema, but not have Inferno. It's this idea of like, you have a bajillion Gods Arts now, so you have more ways to not rely on the ruler to be able to potentially set up the life loss one shot. Rustin brings up an interesting point, is that it's like clunky and not all those Gods Arts are free. So like there's some implication there, like how much, like, does it actually help the deck? Does it really need it? Does it make it too clunky? Which is one of those reasons why I'm like, yeah, probably fine. If like I think about the idea of playing like Belial Beatrice God Art stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that deck has survivability, but I think you could still kill it. But then I think about like, oh, well, what if we also splashed Inferno? That could be really annoying to play against, right? And that's to me, because Belial Inferno isn't combination banned, that's the only reason why Belial's on my radar. But we'll have to see. To me, I would put him on a watch list for something to happen for 3 months from now, because we have not seen the Dante Life Loss deck, even before the combination ban list, put up incredibly consistent results, and then it lost Virgil. So it's like,
yeah.
So there's some things to toy around there. For me, Origins Drywing, if my list remains unbanned, Origins Drywing needs to stay. If they ban my list, I honestly would prefer they combo ban Origins Drywing, because we have some things coming out in this new set that cheat will fairly, if that makes sense. Like we have like weaker Melfi, we have the contract for Berserker, like designed to support flipping Berserker. Like, yeah, there was some kinds of things that are like, we're using like fair will cheating, where it's more just like facilitation, or as opposed to like let me combo out and do some really crazy shenanigans. I'm still very much on the fence about Origins Drywing. Like, it could go either way for me. The big tipping point to make me feel comfortable one way or the other is, does my list get banned? And I think that's the biggest piece for those kinds of elements. The overall problem I'd like to say is that the game is in a state that Drywing is needed to slow everything down. I would say that yes and no to that. Because there are also plenty of very successful decks that don't cheat will at all. If you're trying to, like, the problem is that if you're trying to slow the decks down and you want to use, or like, if you hit my list, the most oppressive will cheating deck is a my list deck. So like, then suddenly you're not as concerned about it's that same kind of thing about like, you take away that concern, and so then you can experiment in the space more, and so things shift and everything else. It's not much like any meta, much like any card game. It's not if we just do this one thing, everything will be better. It's certainly a process, which I think they're still working on with the combination ban list. Origins Drywing and my list, those decisions go hand in hand together for sure. With all this stuff that's being revealed outside of the game, to me, if my list gets banned and they give good tools to these new rulers to be able to reveal stuff from outside the game, we still have some, like villains can reveal pretty easily with like Echidna and stuff like that. Then I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Then at that point in time, it's like, if you provide me more fair alternatives to Origins, then yeah, I'd be fine with Origins going, right? It's not one note, absolutely one way or the other, which is complicated, but also, you can disagree with me and that's totally fine.
Well, there's also the fact that if Drywing exists, and it exists in every deck, Justice just gets hosed. Like, it just isn't a deck anymore.
Yeah.
That's real. Also, Berserker suffers from it. So yeah, that's a thing.
Basically makes the 12 Olympians. Oh, you're talking about Olympus stones, certainly something I've been toying around with for how to I think the simplest fix for Zeus, if I was to do it, and like trying to say like, let's do the minimalist thing possible to bring Zeus back in line, I'd say you errata Poseidon to not be able to target itself, and you ban Artemis. If you hit those two things together, I honestly think that Zeus is just a core fundamentals tier 1 deck that doesn't feel like, oh crap, you won out of nowhere when you shouldn't have. That to me is what I would do. I would even let Zeus still keep his stone. But I would, if those two things happened, I would let Zeus keep his stone. So, Mike, do you have any thoughts?
No thoughts. Head empty, other than ban Origin, ban my list. Belial can stay. What was the last one? Zeus? Don't care.
Totally fine. I think keep Drywing, unban Carlina and Feasting. That's a hot take.
What? No.
Maybe keep Drywing, unban Carlina, but you can't ever unban Feasting. Like, it's not possible.
You also really can't.
Card was designed to be broken as crap.
Feels like the stone should have been an Olympian 4. Oh yeah, that was how it had to have Union 7 before it can produce 2 colors, maybe for sure, but it's fine. I think
Sure.
the one thing to me the biggest thing is the biggest takeaway as we have these conversations, because it's really been interesting to see people's different different levels of like what they think of those. I think those 4 pieces have been kind of the preliminary points that people have been talking about, and it's been interesting to see the different levels of engagement from those 4 pieces. I think it speaks to, again, that it's not one clear answer and that it might take time. But I also think that, like, this ban list will be interesting to show the company's, like, continued take about it. Like, to show, like, continued effort to work on it. Because, like, the first draft of something is never right. Like 100% perfect. The second draft is usually never perfect either. Especially when you also add in 4 more pages of text, right? So the ban list is going to evolve over time, and I, for one, am excited to see what it brings. That I will say, though, at Minnesota, under the past ban list, outside of people trying to do silly mindless shenanigans, there were a lot of really, really cool decks in that environment of both, like, order rulers, tag rulers, non-tag rulers. Like, there were some really fun decks that people were playing, and I think at our locals as well, people have been playing a lot of really fun decks, and that to me is like the biggest good thing, is that the Wanderer experience wouldn't be a podcast without Mike disconnecting. It is the fact that
Got revealed from outside the game.
I got revealed from outside the game. Is the fact that the Wanderer environment is really encouraging players at a local level to really experiment and try cool things, which is great. Feasting would still be good in control decks if she was released, but she never would be. I mean, Feasting would be just good in any deck, any type of deck. She mulligans 3 times.
Feasting's literally the best ruler. Like, no question.
Certainly high up there, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But make Feasting so that you can't combo ruler her with anyone. Remove tag from her. That's an interesting thought experiment. We should run that on the channel sometime with the next ban list.
Just Feasting alone.
Just solo Feasting and see what she could do.
The only 6 Sage I have never played with.
Yeah,
it's like, God, it's so late. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Interesting stuff. Another couple weeks of spoilers next week during the podcast. Next week during the podcast, we're gonna have the Ruler School official spoilers. The Ruler School exclusive spoilers we're gonna do here live next week. So be sure to tune in for that. But as always, this has been myself, Daniel73, and I've been joined as always by Mike Rance, who disconnected and then came back, and Paul Reisman. And until next time,
this is
class
the letter
dismissed.
U for you are the greatest community.
You are the greatest community. Thank you all so much.
Goodbye.
Class dismissed.
Community.